Almost everyone develops some degree of kidney decline with age. That part is expected. What actually matters from a long life perspective is how fast that decline happens and whether you catch the warning signs before real damage sets in. Most people never think about these two fist-sized organs sitting quietly against their lower back until something goes seriously wrong. Yet, every single day, your kidneys are performing one of the most remarkable jobs in your entire body. They filter somewhere around 200 liters of blood daily. They clear out toxins, balance your fluids, regulate electrolytes, produce essential hormones, and keep your internal chemistry steady. When they begin to fail, that steadiness unravels, and the rest of your body feels it. Here's the frustrating part. Early kidney disease is often preventable and very manageable if it's caught in time. But it rarely is because the early symptoms are quiet. They're the kind of thing you brush off, blame on stress, or chalk up to getting older. By the time they become impossible to ignore, meaningful damage has frequently already occurred. I'm Dr. Wilson, and I've spent years working in emergency medicine, watching patients come through the doors in kidney crisis, situations that, more often than not, could have been caught months or even years earlier. When we went back through their history, the warning signs were almost always there, sitting quietly in the background. Nobody had connected them. Nobody realized that the tiredness, the strange foam in the toilet bowl, the swelling in the ankles, weren't just ordinary signs of aging. They were the kidneys quietly waving a flag. So let's change that today. We're going to walk through 7 early warning signs that your kidneys may be struggling, what's actually happening inside your body when each one appears, and how to tell the difference between something harmless and something that deserves a doctor's attention. Because understanding these signals early can be the difference between a manageable course correction and a much harder road later on. Your kidneys can't talk to you in words, but they do communicate. Let's learn their language. We'll start with something most people notice in the bathroom and immediately dismiss: foam in the urine. A little foam now and then is completely normal, especially if you're a bit dehydrated or urinating with some force. But foam that lingers, that looks like dish soap bubbles, that shows up consistently, that's worth paying attention to. This is often a sign of excess protein passing into the urine. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. Each kidney contains roughly 1 million microscopic filtering units. Inside each one sits a cluster of tiny blood vessels wrapped in a delicate filtering membrane. This membrane is built to let waste and small molecules pass through while holding on to larger, valuable substances, proteins in particular. When that filter is healthy, almost no protein escapes into the urine. But when it becomes damaged from long-term high blood pressure, elevated blood sugar, inflammation, or other causes, it starts to leak. A protein called albumin slips through, and when it mixes with urine, it behaves like soap, creating that stubborn foam. And this isn't just a symptom, it becomes part of the problem. Protein sitting in the kidney's tubules triggers inflammation and oxidative stress, which can accelerate further damage, creating a cycle that feeds itself. If you're noticing persistent foam, especially alongside any of the other signs we'll cover, it's worth asking your doctor for a simple urine test. A basic dipstick can detect protein, and if it's present, a more detailed 24-hour collection can measure exactly how much is being lost. Catching this early gives you real power to slow things down. The second sign is one people often blame on standing too long: hot weather or salty food, swelling around the ankles. This connects directly to what we just discussed. When kidneys lose protein through damaged filters, the protein level in your bloodstream drops. Albumin normally creates a kind of pulling pressure that keeps fluid inside your blood vessels. When albumin falls, that pressure weakens and fluid starts leaking out into the surrounding tissue. Gravity does the rest, pulling that fluid down into your feet and ankles first. There's a second mechanism at play too. Struggling kidneys don't clear sodium efficiently, and water follows sodium, so your body starts retaining more fluid overall. The hormonal systems that normally keep blood pressure and fluid levels in check also get thrown off, compounding the swelling. A little puffiness after a long flight or a day on your feet is nothing to worry about. But swelling that lingers, that leaves an indentation when you press on it, or that's worse first thing in the morning. That's a different story, and it's worth a blood test checking your albumin along with a urine test. The third warning sign hides behind something we all experience constantly, which makes it easy to overlook: fatigue. But kidney-related fatigue has its own signature, driven by something called anemia of chronic kidney disease. Your kidneys don't just filter blood. They also produce a hormone that tells your bone marrow to manufacture red blood cells. When kidney function drops, so does that hormone, and your body starts producing fewer red cells. Fewer red cells means less oxygen reaching your muscles and your brain. This isn't the kind of tiredness a good night's sleep or a cup of coffee fixes. It's a deep, heavy exhaustion. Everyday tasks start to feel like a mountain to climb. You might notice trouble concentrating or find yourself out of breath doing things that never used to bother you. And because this kind of anemia builds slowly, it's easy to write off as simply getting older. A routine blood count can reveal it, typically showing lower than normal levels of hemoglobin. And further testing can confirm whether it's tied to kidney function rather than something like an iron deficiency. Once identified, it's treatable, though addressing the underlying kidney issue remains essential. Sign number 4 tends to worsen gradually, needing to get up and urinate multiple times through the night, known as nocturia. Normally, your body produces a hormone overnight that tells your kidneys to concentrate urine and conserve water, which is why your first trip to the bathroom in the morning tends to be darker and more concentrated. When kidney function declines, the tubules lose their ability to respond properly to that signal. They keep producing diluted urine around the clock, meaning your bladder fills up repeatedly through the night. This is different from simply drinking too much before bed. It reflects a genuine loss of your kidney's ability to follow your body's natural rhythm. Waking once a night, particularly if you're over 50, is common and usually nothing to worry about. But waking 3, 4, or 5 times, especially if this pattern is new or producing large volumes of urine, is worth discussing with your doctor. The fifth sign connects to that same fluid imbalance, but shows up somewhere unexpected: puffiness around the eyes, especially in the morning. The skin there is thin and delicate, making it particularly quick to show fluid buildup. Overnight, while you're lying flat, fluid distributes more evenly across your body rather than pooling in your legs, and the loose tissue around your eyes tends to absorb it easily. This usually affects both eyes evenly. If only one eye is swollen, that points towards something else entirely, like an infection, and deserves prompt attention on its own. Puffiness that improves as the day goes on is less concerning than swelling that lingers, particularly when paired with other symptoms we've discussed. Allergies, poor sleep, and simple aging can also cause this, so context matters. If it shows up alongside foamy urine or ankle swelling, kidney health becomes a much more likely explanation. Sign 6 seems to have nothing to do with kidneys at first glance: muscle cramps. Your kidneys are responsible for carefully balancing electrolytes like sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium, all of which are essential for your muscles and nerves to function properly. When kidney function slips, this balance gets disrupted. Low calcium can make muscles overly excitable. Low magnesium interferes with their ability to relax. Abnormal potassium levels throw off the electrical signals that control contraction altogether. The cramps tied to kidney trouble tend to be more intense and frequent than the ones you get after a hard workout. They often strike at rest, particularly at night, and may come with other clues like general weakness, tingling in the fingers, or an irregular heartbeat. A comprehensive metabolic panel alongside kidney function testing can clarify what's going on, and treatment usually involves correcting whichever electrolytes are out of range. The seventh and final sign is perhaps the most surprising of all: itchy skin that seems to come from nowhere. This is a well-documented consequence of declining kidney function. As kidneys lose their filtering ability, waste products build up in the bloodstream and can settle in the skin, triggering irritation and inflammation. Hormonal shifts involving calcium and phosphate regulation add to the effect, and even the skin's hydration suffers, becoming drier and more prone to irritation despite fluid retention elsewhere in the body. Nerve function can also be affected, producing an itching sensation with no visible rash at all. What makes this particular symptom so frustrating is that it often doesn't respond to typical remedies like moisturizers or antihistamines. It tends to be widespread rather than localized, worse at night, and persistent despite home treatment. If it shows up alongside any of the other signs we've covered, it's worth having your kidney function checked. Taken together, these 7 signals each reveal a different piece of the same story. Foam in the urine points to proteins slipping through damaged filters. Swelling in the ankles and puffiness around the eyes point to fluid regulation breaking down. Fatigue traces back to reduced red blood cell production. Frequent nighttime urination shows a loss of the kidney's natural rhythm. Muscle cramps reflect electrolyte imbalance. Itching points to waste building up in the bloodstream. None of these on their own means your kidneys are failing, and having 1 or 2 doesn't automatically spell trouble. But together, especially if you're living with diabetes, high blood pressure, or a family history of kidney disease, they're worth taking seriously. The earlier these signs are caught, the more room you have to slow things down, protect your long-term health, and hold on to your quality of life. Too many people wait until the disease has progressed to an advanced stage, at which point the conversation shifts from prevention to management. But if you pay attention now, if you take these small, quiet signals seriously and bring them to your doctor before they become impossible to ignore, you give yourself a real chance to protect your kidney function for years, sometimes decades, longer than you would otherwise. Your kidneys have been speaking to you all along. The only question now is whether you're ready to listen.